Reciting his honorable name. force of steam and machinery, who could achieve extraordinary. In the fogs of history and darkness, he was easy to bring.
I woke up from the realm of mysteries and opened my eyes to the world. Firearms, cannons, battleships, airships, and difference machines. Potions, divination, curses, hanged man, and sealed artifacts. The lights shone brightly, and the secrets of the world were never far away. This was a legend of the void. Remember one sentence. The awakening of the world spells the future return to trance is. No, miss, I'm just a wandering clown. You reply lightly. Here, take this flower. I insist. They looked at him in a daze. All they saw was a wide smile plastered over the pastel face. It was a happy smile, an exaggerated smile, a ridiculous smile. While seizing the moment when Lanibus's fell forward, he took 2 steps and arrived behind him. He reached out with his arms and grabbed his enemy's neck. Klein's arms exerted force and he suddenly turned around, twisting Lanibus's neck. After doing all of this, he took 2 steps back and looked at his enemy. With the card embedded in him, Lanibus looked ahead weakly as he slumped to the ground. At the same time, he was very confused and asked in a staccato manner, "Why do you want to kill me?" With his clown mask on, Klein stared at his archenemy and replied indifferently, "No reason." Upon seeing this scene, Klein suddenly crouched down. He laughed crazily with a suppressed voice. The clown mask looked so very happy. Sangwell's head completely exploded, and like a smashed watermelon, the fragments and the juice splattered everywhere. Death knell had sounded the knell for his. It was none other than Klein. knows who he is only flowers. He appears, and names begin to die. Some say he's a hunter, others say As the cold and sharp man noticed the commotion happening at the bar's entrance, he thought to himself, logically, the safest and most effective thing to do is hold back for now, analyze their strength and abilities, and develop a safe plan to deal with the situation. But that isn't what Gehrman Sparrow would do.
Do you find me attractive?
Gehrman Sparrow in a husked voice replied, "Your bounty is quite attractive." If the organization that uses the tarot cards as its code name is really an organization that believes in the Fool, then there is someone who can answer my third question. He's the crazy adventurer, Gehrman Sparrow. Organization's members come from different places and join for different reasons, choosing to change their own faith in the process. As for what happened before that, their lives remain their own. stood up and walked towards the window. It was dark outside. The scribe muttered to himself in a low voice. Tonight, Gehrman joins the hunt.
Occasionally disguise myself as him.
surroundings and programs. The person that seemed ordinary definitely wouldn't be take a moment to appreciate that Roselle Gustav admitted to Klein's face that he used to watch fanboy and cross-dresser streamers in his past life. This just adds so much more context to Roselle's famous quote of "the taste of a demoness ain't bad." And to the viewers who haven't read Lord of the Mysteries, there's a pathway to divinity called the Demoness pathway. The people who go down this pathway are forced to change their gender to female. So this person right here used to be a guy. But my boy Roselle does not care at all. The entire world thinks Roselle is some super smart emperor who led Intis to become one of the most powerful countries in the world. But then all the transmigrators who actually can understand his diaries read the most out-of-pocket stuff he writes in there. It's so funny. And the worst part for Roselle is that Bernadette probably knows what he wrote now, because she now has connections to the Terra Club, which in turn has connections to the curly-haired Baboon Research Society. So his reputation with his daughter is probably over. Roselle is too funny. People call him a fraud because all his inventions are from the modern world, and he even steals philosophical quotes and pretends like they're his. It just makes so much sense that the entire curly-hair Baboon Research Society makes fun of him. And to all the people who are caught up in Lord of the Mysteries too, I wonder what Roselle thinks about this person.
So you think you can just tell your head like that and it's gonna convince me to give you whatever you want? Well, you're absolutely right. What do you want? Do you want treats? Do you want my soul? Do you want my undying loyalty? I'll give you anything.
But it's gonna take that bitch down. It's gonna be Amidst the shock experienced by Leonard, Fours, and the other members of the Tarot Club, Katia, who already had a premonition, suppressed her emotions and decided to ask another question. Honorable Mr. Fool, what's the attitude of the Seven Deities regarding this matter? Good question. The fool Klein inwardly praised her, and he explained by using the Red Angel Evil Spirit's explanation in his own words. The Seven Deities wish to have a Black Emperor, but they are not unanimous in their candidate for the Black Emperor. So that's the situation. Following that, they suddenly had a question. Since George III had already made preparations and had reached the final step of carrying out the ritual while obtaining the tacit approval of the Seven Deities, why would he fail? They immediately thought of an answer. Because Mr. Fool didn't agree to it. Seeing that everyone was silent, the fool cried, looked at the hermit Katia and said, "Any other questions? There's nothing else this time." Katia bowed her head even more. She was more respectful than before towards the mighty figure at the end of the Longbird's tirade. Although she had long known that Mr. Fool had dislike of fight, death counsel, an ancient bind under him, and was the sacred control of the lifestone of thought. She still never expected that the powers Mr. Fool could mobilize in the real world were able to destroy a king's Apotheosis ritual. Furthermore, he had foiled the plot of a king of angels, the son of the Creator. After I infused the potion formula of the 22 pathways with power, they naturally produced the convergence powers between beyond the characteristics. They also gained anti-divination and anti-prophecy effects to a certain extent. And then, as he spoke, Roselle suddenly paused. After 1 or 2 seconds, he said in an ethereal voice, "The nation of the God of Blasphemy was a year before I held the Black Emperor ritual. Back then, I had already suffered the corruption of the primordial moon, and I didn't have the corresponding realization most of the time. Why can the 22 cards not be found by deities?" Hearing this question above the grave throbbed Klein's heart tightened as he felt his scalp tingle again. Without waiting for his response from the paper figurine, Roselle's voice suddenly raised, bringing with it an indescribable fear. "Don't gather the 22 cards. Be careful of the mother card." These 2 sentences echoed in the deep interior of the Black Emperor mausoleum for a long time. As Klein walked into the room exhausted, his body trembled, his gaze froze. Across from his sitting on a chair was the marionette he had lost. The figure slowly stood up, while putting on a crystal monocle on his right eye, said, "Don't randomly leave your marionettes around. They can be trapped." He can be anywhere and anyone. He has miles, a stray dog on the road, a wench in the slums, an insect in the wooden walls. He can also live in microbes in the air. You truly are powerful, cunning and terrifying, truly worthy of the title God of Deceit. The figure took out a monocle made of crystal and leisurely placed it over his right eye, revealing a slight smile at Lillian. "You can call me Amon, or Termaboros." His figure completely froze as he raised his right hand and pressed it to his face. The next second, Mr. Door lifted his head and wore a crystal barnacle on his right eye. A beam of light erupted from the barnacle, illuminating the entire world. At that moment, all the errors of the seals that had failed were fixed. Everything that seemed normal showed errors. All the clocks jumped several seconds forward. The light converged immediately, and Mr. Door had turned into Gehrman with his pointed hat and the classic black robe. Doesn't matter where. Everything happened as I willed it. distorted from authority and symbolism. He smiled calmly and said to the shadow behind him, "They don't seem to be aware of the reason why I used visionary as the foundation this time." Just as he said that, he proclaimed in a solemn and deep voice, "I am one and also infinity, the beginning and the end." His eyes suddenly turned illusory as an ocean that seemed to contain all possible colors appeared around him. A burning but illusory sun appeared above his head. To his left, lightning, squalls, and waves formed a supercilious phantom. On his right, there was a white tower with numerous brass eyes. The authorities and symbols that Adam had envisioned entered his body one after another under the influence of the chaos sea. Finally, the shadow that clung tightly to Adam's back shrank into his body. The sea that contained all the colors began to rise. Adam expanded into a giant shadow that seemed capable of holding up the world. It pointed at the astral world and solemnly declared, "Let there be light." Adam, the angel of imagination, was more than just a king of angels. He was a being who shaped reality itself. His thoughts wove illusions so vivid they became indistinguishable from truth, erasing the boundaries between what was real and what simply existed in his mind. Those who gazed upon him lost their sense of self, consumed by his will. Even gods and angels approached with caution, for Adam did not fight. He decided. Yet, beneath the veil of his existence, a deeper truth lingered. The ancient sun god had not vanished. His divinity had merely awakened within Adam, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the moment to reclaim its throne. And when that moment came, when illusion and reality became one, his voice echoed across existence. I am the sun god. Adam's eyes were clear as he said, with a warm expression. To be frank, if the other party wasn't Gehrman, then I'd be more willing to help you become the dominator of the spirit world. We have too many things in common. In a sense, we are old friends who have met before. That said, he smiled and said, "We meet again, mysteries." But I am beyond strength. Gehrman was a name whispered in fear and awe throughout the world, known as the Angel of Time, the God of Mischief, and the Blasphemer. He was a being of unimaginable power, always lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. His presence was elusive, his actions unpredictable, and his schemes beyond mortal comprehension. He was born in the Second Epoch, a direct descendant of the ancient sun god. From the very beginning, he possessed the uniqueness of the era pathway, granting him an incredible advantage. Over the centuries, he ascended the ranks of the Marauder pathway, mastering its abilities until he finally became a dual pathway deity. With control over both the Era and Door authorities, he gained dominion over time, space, and deception itself. Amor's abilities made him one of the most terrifying entities in existence. He could steal anything. Objects, abilities, concepts, deception and illusionary powers were unmatched, making it impossible to tell what was real and what was merely a trick.
She went too far, trust me, they gotta go. I may take all my aces and play along.
After laughing, Almond said with a smile, "To be honest, this is all very interesting. Are you really not considering becoming my blessed?" In that instant, his body split apart, turning into a thin gray fog and dark liquid. The gray fog and black liquid blended together, and the countless maggots that resembled meat tendrils sprouted on the surface. Then, they intertwined into a translucent, dark-colored cloak. There was no body under the cloak, just darkness. This process was very brief. In less than 2 seconds, the Evernight Goddess's concealment of so many deities was clearly unable to last that long. In an instant, a door of light traveled across the surface of the concealed world at an extremely high speed. The door suddenly opened, and Eamon, who was wearing a pointed hat and wearing a classic black robe, leaped out. At the same time, he saw an illusory mask with blank facial features appear under the translucent dark-colored cloak. The mask instantly outlined Klein, who had fused with Gehrman Sparrow's traits. Eamon's thoughts turned chaotic as though he had his intelligence forcefully lowered, the fool was born. Persists until the end, there won't be a winner. He will be the winner. Iman's brows pricked up as he smiled without saying a word. Klein looked at him and said with a smile, "Your every action is a product of meticulous planning. Even if you fail, you will have a way out. Anyway, do you want to take the bet?" Your life more than I imagined. You do like thrills and seek it for pleasure, but to do so regardless of the price is just an image you portray. How can a real god of deceit wager a bet with himself at stake? Of course, this is just my own guess. Perhaps it's wrong. Anyway, do you want to take the bet? Gehrman stroked the crystal monocle and made a tisk like energy. You're really crazy. Klein replies to smile. In the eyes of others, this is indeed itself. To me, it's just a choice. That his era authority had been forcefully suppressed. As Klein slowly got up, more slippery and sinister tentacles appeared around him. The smile on his face became more exaggerated. Right on the heels of that, Amon's eyes glazed over and the smile on his face froze as the crystal monocle lost its luster. At the same time, the cold, bizarre mask on Klein's face squirmed cosmos, and he used his authority to influence the corresponding environment. The surrounding slippery tentacles aimed at our moon like revolvers in our moon's eyes that were still glazed over. A supernova exploded. An unimaginable sea of scorching light surged out, shattering his monocle and drowning his body. Behind the endless curtain of darkness, the darkness of aqueous light ebbing gently. A young man with black hair, black eyes, a broad forehead, and a thin face suddenly sat up, as though he had experienced a nightmare. At this moment, he heard a gentle but emotionless voice. To him, there's something more important than life. To you, apart from yourself, there's nothing worth caring about. When the matter develops to a point where one's life is put on the line, it will imply remorse. The corners of Alone's mouth curled up as though he wanted to smile and reply, but he ultimately didn't say anything. Born as a mythical creature, your lack of normal anchors is also a problem. This makes you know what courage and sacrifice are, but it's hard for you to understand. From the smoldering ashes of the age of chaos rose the celestial worthy, a being forged in the crucible of conflict. The slumber of the original creator had cast the world into an abyss, but the celestial worthy, empowered by a fragment of the scattered eon characteristics, clawed his way to dominance. His path was paved with war, rival races, wielding their own fragments of divine power, sought to rule the fractured world. Yet, the worthy stood undefeated, a tempestuous hurricane against a cacophony of lesser storms. Battles raged for centuries, each huge clash sculpting the land into scars, boiling the seas with fury and charring the skies. Humanity, caught in the crossfire, teetered on the brink of annihilation. But the celestial worthy would not be denied. With every clash, his legend grew, his power swelling. In a final, earth-shattering duel, he felled the primordial one, his rival for dominion. The victor sealed his opponent away, the tremors of their struggle echoing through the land. With the world hissed to shame, the celestial worthy wielded the remaining beyond characteristics like a sculptor's chisel. He cleaved the western continent, severing it from the rest with 7 of the 9 Sith artifacts of immense power. Thus, the Age of Chaos bled into the Dark Age, leaving behind a world scarred but subdued, once ruled by the iron fist of the celestial worthy. His descendants, the 7 lights, inheritors of this fragment of the divine, would shoulder the burden of rebuilding the world. That is the seed of the fool. How dare you stand where he stood? Among them, Leonard was the one that answered from the bottom of his heart. To him, spreading the faith and biblical canon of Mr. Fool was to awaken Klein. Everywhere around them, as far as eyes could reach, the ground was covered in a faint gray fog. Newman and company halted in their tracks, their minds filled with confusion and puzzlement. All around them, Leon his fate upon the berserk sea everywhere on earth. Everyone halted, stopping in their tracks, their minds also covered in confusion and puzzle. In the astral world, all the orthodox deities present casted their gazes from their divine kingdoms at the great fog gathering in the astral world. After some time, a tall figure stepped out, one hand by his side, another one pressing on a half-top hat on his head. The aura around him was undescribable, unimaginable. And in that moment, in this world covered in confusion and puzzle, he was like a one true demon. Just then, a figure gradually took shape. He was within the great fog, his figure quite blurry, allowing Lumion and the others to only clearly see a silver tall hand with black nostrils. Looking at this, both familiar and unfamiliar figure, Madam Justice took a breath, stood up, cursing with a slight bend of her knees, saying, "Good afternoon, Mr.